Hi class. I'm recording this little video in order to talk with you a minute about your narrative essays. If you notice in the assignment for the narrative essay, you were supposed to use the models that I gave you, the chase, salvation, falling into place, and oranges as your models for how to write an argumentative narrative essay. Now remember, what you're doing in a narrative essay is you're telling a story in order to illustrate a point. So therefore, for example, in Falling into Place, he tells the story of being up in a tree when he's about 13 and some girls come by and they basically call him Chicken, and when the cute girl he really likes calls him Chicken, he jumps out. And then the point he comes to, which some of you missed on your quiz, was, does he learn a lesson? And he says no. What man ever really does? So the argument or the point of that essay is that we do stupid things, sometimes to impress people, and we keep doing stupid things. We don't necessarily learn our lessons. So what has happened to you that you could use to illustrate a point? Another example would be Annie Dillard's The Chase. So the thesis of that essay is that that the joy of living, that the fun, that the drama, that the trauma, that the tension, that what makes living wonderful is flinging yourself into things. It's the journey, it's the doing, not the goal. The goal becomes anticlimactic. Remember, she spends most of her essay talking about the chase. And when he catches them, all he can do is say, you stupid kids, because what else can he really do to them, right? And she wants the chase to last forever because that's where the fun of life is, in the chase, in the pursuit, in the moving, the running, right? Okay, and then we had another one, Salvation. Salvation tells the story of Langston Hughes at his Auntie Reed's church during a revival. And the argument here is that it's the opposite. What he experiences is the opposite of salvation. Before he enters the revival, he's kind of a true believer because he's sitting there waiting to see Jesus. But then, because he thinks that's literal, he doesn't understand what Auntie Reed means. She's talking about a spiritual awakening, but he thinks it's an actual, Jesus is going to come walking in the church. And so if we think about the point of that, the thesis of that is a lot of times there's a disconnect between what we expect and what we get. And when we have this disconnect, we find disappointment. So have you ever been embarrassed? Have you ever been disappointed? And what did you learn from that? I'm about halfway through reading all of your thesis statements and introductory paragraphs, and as I read them and grade them, I send those back to you. But here's the general problem. The general problem is, not with everybody's, but with most of the ones I've read so far, they are way too vague. For example, they start off something like, last year I experienced a very bad situation. This situation taught me many lessons. They are lessons I will never forget. All right, that makes no sense. It has no meaning whatsoever. What lessons? Not one single thing we've read so far starts off generically. For example, Falling into Place starts off, it is 1957 and I am up a tree. That's literal. That speaker is located in a time, in a place, in a situation. Salvation begins, I was saved from sin when I was going on 13. Well, not really saved. And then it's going to begin to tell us about being in the revival. Or Annie Dillard's The Chase talks about how she's playing football, how the boys say she's got a boy's arm, right? How she loves to fling herself at the dive at the feet of the runner. It's very specific. So instead of talking about or beginning with all this generic, I was in a situation, okay? When I was 16, my mother left us. That's a situation. I've told you what it is. When I was 16, my mother left us. I was forced at that time to take care of my 3 younger siblings. My father didn't know what to do, so he just disconnected. He went to work every day. He came home every evening, but he left it to me to discipline the kids, to help them with their homework, to do whatever needed to be done. I didn't like it. I was lonely. I was angry. I didn't know what to do. And so I turned to my grandmother, who gave me the wisest words I've ever heard when she said, "We all do the best we can, and that's all anyone can expect of us." All right, and then began to tell me the story of what happened. So, locate your narrative in a time, in a place. I don't want to read it about any situations. I don't want to read about how it was a difficult time. Tell me what the time was. What happened? Tell me what happened. Go back to those stories that we've read and look specifically about how they all began. At the beginning of every single one of them, they locate you in a particular time, in a particular place. The other thing about narrative is a narrative essay, when it's using an incident to illustrate a larger point or a thesis, it only talks about a short period of time. Notice that the chase is just about a man who chased them one time, one afternoon. Very short period of time. Falling into place, about jumping out of a tree one afternoon. Very short period of time. Salvation, about one night at the revival in Auntie Reed's church. Very short period of time. Oranges, about a boy who walks a girl home. Very short period of time. So these narrative essays should not span a whole year, should not span a whole semester, but focus in on one incident that illustrates, or one incident that becomes a turning point in the way you're thinking about something. So remember, specificity, clarity, one specific incident, illustrate a point. If you have questions, you can email me, you can call me. Please read the comments on your introductory paragraphs and your thesis statements. I've also posted the grades of your little quizzes online. At the end of the semester, all of the quizzes together and the little enabling activities together will constitute 20% of your grade. So if your grade is low right now, don't be panicked, because you're going to have lots of grades by the end of the semester. You need to read carefully, though. I've noticed that some of you are not reading carefully. You're not paying attention to the particulars of the essay. Remember, when we're reading to look at the structure of the essay. Look, what are the moves that the writers make? We're not just reading to figure out what happened. How does the writer start his or her introduction? How does he shift or she shift time? What is the thesis? What is the point? What are you trying to tell me? And sometimes that means that you have to read the essay more than one time. You may not be able to get it on the first reading. So keep reading and keep writing. And if you have questions, you remember to email me. All right, take care.